What's going on with y'all today, man? How y'all feeling today? A lot to discuss, a lot to unpack out here in these streets, man. You know? It's a lot to unpack out here in these streets, man. Make sure you hit the like button. Hit the like button. Make sure you hit the like button. Subscribe. Hit the like button. Before you do anything, make sure you hit the like button. That's the most important thing. You gotta hit the like button. This shit is such a... Make sure you hit the like button. Hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the like button. Everybody here, make sure you hit the like button. What's going on, y'all, today, man? As I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and we await the verdict of the trial of Derek Chauvin for the murder of George Floyd. Everybody's on pins and needles. A lot of things going on, man. The last couple of weeks have been really tough, man. I just want to talk about them. First and foremost, we want to say, R.I.P. to Daunte Wright, who lost his life at the hands of police. We want to make sure we do that. Do we want to say R.I.P. to the 7-year-old girl who was shot and killed in the drive-thru by gang violence in McDonald's in Chicago? We want to say R.I.P. to her. We get a lot. Well, I myself, I get a lot of these messages and pushback that you just want to protest when the police kill us, but you don't protest when we kill us. And I think those are things that and I hear what you're saying. I think that people have to be conscious and cognizant of the difference in the two, right? And understand that both of those are two fights, but they're two different fights. People have to understand those things. It's not about holding our breath. It's not holding our breath. But listen to me. Because you lose a fight, don't mean you stop fighting, right? Because you're fighting a giant and you lost 10 times, you get up 11 times and you still fight, right? Because basically that's all you got is to fight. When you take hope in anything from anybody, it's over. So I'm not going to stop fighting. I'm not going to stop demanding that we get justice, that that people see black people as equal people, that they see us as human beings. I'm never going to stop doing that. So cool. And I'm not the person I'm not going out there with my guns blazing. I'm not shooting nobody, shooting the police. I'm not doing none of that, right? So since I know that that's not a step that I'm prepared to take right now, I'm not prepared to go to war physically with the government, right? I'm not prepared to get guns and go out there and say, hey, this is what we doing, right? I'm not prepared to do that. So what I have to do is be able to fight within the realm and means that I'm prepared to fight. If you prepared to do all the shit you want to go to war and all that, then that's something that you should do. Don't impose the fact that that's not, because I don't believe we prepare. I don't believe as black people we are prepared to go to war. We're not financially prepared. We're not strategically prepared. We don't have means. We don't have anything to go to war, right? To go to war physically. We don't have anything to go to war physically. Right? We don't have an army that's willing to go to war for it. We got a bunch of people online that say, fuck that, this ain't gonna change until we do this and that. We don't have none of those people that's online, that's outside, armed up with their guns and ready to go to war. They just not gonna do it. It's just, history has taught us that is not something we prepared to do, because there's been some people who were prepared. That they went out to the side with their guns or whatever, but it ended drastically, right? So we're not prepared to physically go to war. As black people in America, as marginalized people, we are not prepared, able, financially, physically, strategically. We don't have the amount of, we don't have none of the things that's necessary to go to war, right? So what I understand is the only war I can wage is a mental war, right? Only war I can wage is a war that can be waged with the tools that I have, right? I have freedom of speech. I have freedom to protest. You know, I can lead people. I can organize. I can strategize. You know, I can civil disobedience. I can do things. I can push the envelope. I can make the government uncomfortable. I can make them see that there's thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who don't agree with what you're doing, right? And every now and then there'll be uprisings and things of that nature. But I know that I physically, with the resources that I have, cannot go to war. So I'm not dumb enough to tell somebody to go to war. I'm not telling anybody. If you feel you can do that, if you can organize and you get you an army that's ready to do all of those things, then you should do it. I'm not holding you back. I'm not holding you back at all. Listen, if you think you could do it, because the bottom line is, however we get justice and however we get equity and we actually get what we deserve, I'm all for it. You know, I just don't see how it's going to work that way. I see us getting slaughtered. I see a bunch of us going out in the middle of the street and we getting surrounded by 100,000 people and they killing us and they having a memorial the next day and people going on about their way. Right? That's how I see it. I don't know if I don't think that's the strategy to win. I think it's more of us strategically organize and strategically build up our own, infrastructure, right? We start to build our own infrastructure. We start to put our own people in government to where we take over government, to where then we create our own government. We start evolutionary. I'm not like, you see this shirt? I'm not a revolutionary. I'm an evolutionary because for me, revolution has not worked. It just hasn't worked. The revolution is a strategy, right? It's like fuck it, revolt, right? But if you do not evolve the revolution, right? If you don't evolve the thinking of the revolutionaries that we had before, if you don't evolve that, if you don't say, okay, they made a mistake here, this is what they didn't do, this is what they didn't have, this is what they, if we're not evolving the thinking of Huey P. and Fred Hampton and Malcolm, if we're not taking what the strategy they had to the next level and adding it to something new that's combined with the culture and the times that we're in, because there were different times when we had our revolutionaries in the past. It was completely different times. So if we're not utilizing the common sense we had with the knowledge, with the wisdom that we have, because we've seen what they did wrong. We seen, okay, this is where they made a mistake at, right? This is where they made, exactly. We have to own land. We have to empower ourselves, right? So if we're not empowering ourselves and we just like, fuck that, we're not gonna do this, right? I don't see it, right? So there's so many different facets to justice and equity, right? The facets is everybody has to do something different, right? So what I'm doing is raising awareness to what's going on, right? Creating allies, building allies. Every time that we create a protest and a march and we do something, we all allies, right? We all are identifying our allies. I'm looking and say, okay, this person feels like I feel. All of these people, we creating a union and we say, okay, we all feel the same way. So as it grows, it grows. We creating our own army. We creating our own that can go feed into our structure, right? So while we still play the game, because at the end of the day, we still governed by this government, right? No matter what we do, this government still governs us. They can do whatever the fuck they want to do. And if we don't play the game and understand how this government works and how to maneuver through it, but you keep saying my approach is not the way, but you're not giving me an approach of a way that worked. You can tell me anything. Everybody got an opinion, right? Justice and equality has not happened for black people. It has not happened for black people. So everything that we doing is us trying to figure it out. So you don't have the strategy. Even our best revolutionaries didn't have the strategy because nothing they did worked. Black people have not received the equity and equality and none of the things that we supposed to have in this country. So nothing anybody has done worked. So for you to tell me that my approach is wrong is merely your opinion because nothing has worked. Nothing has worked in this country for black people. We have to evolve the thinking. You got to take the strategies and say, okay, this is the ideologies that they had was dope, but the strategy in which they imposed them is wrong. So we have to, not wrong, but it didn't work at that time. So what do we do to add to this strategy? How do we add? How do we add to this strategy? What do we do to add to this strategy? Okay, so find out something new. Understand the times. We live in a hip hop culture. We live in a culture where everything is hypersensitive. Everything is online. People want trend. People want to grab onto something. So okay, so why not make the same shit? We make fucking t-shirts a trend. We make Gucci a trend. We make Louis Vuitton a trend. So why would we not make fighting for our rights a trend? Why we might not make these young kids feel like if you ain't out here on the ground, advocating for civil rights, doing something, if you a fucking rich artist and you ain't putting your money into development towns and buying real estate so that your people can have this and that and going back to your communities and buying back, you're not doing that, then you ain't cool, right? That's what we supposed to do. That's what we supposed to take an approach that's current and add it to the ideologies of our past leaders and make it some shit that works for now. That's what evolutionary thinking is. That's why I'm an evolutionary. I don't want to die at 30-something. I don't want to die at 40. I don't want to be a martyr that they said shot up in a building and went to jail for 100 years and we still in the same place. I salute all of our revolutionaries that did that. I salute all our past leaders that took that path. I salute them because we learned. But if we do the same thing that they did, then we didn't learn anything. Right? We didn't learn anything. We didn't learn anything. So if we don't evolve that and take that shit and we don't say, okay, I'm going to get to 60 at least before they take me out. And by the time they take me out, we're going to have built cities. We're going to build schools. We're going to build our own fucking economic structure. We're going to build our own shit. By the time they take me out, we have built something. We have built a structure that runs without me. Right? That's what it's about. Building a structure that's going to live beyond you. Because most of the structures that our past leaders had died when they died. The ideology lived, but the structure didn't move on. None of the shit they built, the ideology, there's some places were here, but it wasn't like a well-oiled machine that it was built so much that even when they was gone, it's still here. Just because they got killed doesn't mean they did anything wrong. We gotta emulate and stop. What do you mean? If you died before you was able to implement your plan, beloved, then I think you did something wrong. There's somehow somebody was able to infiltrate something before you got to implement what you tried to do. If you had all the ideas in your mind and you died with the ideas and didn't implement anything, right? I think that's something that I don't want to do. I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I'm just saying for me, when I look at it, I say to myself, I want to be able to take what they did to the next level. That's what our goal is. If you don't have a better life than your father, then your father failed. If your father has not provided you with the jewels and everything to move to surpass him in his life, then he failed. You know, so that's just the reality of what we're talking about. So that's one story. So, you know, and a lot of people say, you know, you just advocate when the police kill us and not when we kill us. And I say to myself, there's two different things that we're dealing with. It's a two-pronged fight that we have to have, right? So when police kill us, we're asking for accountability. Because when JoJo kills Ray Ray, he's going to do 100 years in jail when they catch him. He's going to do 100 years in jail. He kills Ray Ray, and they lose 2 lives. They lose Ray Ray because Ray Ray's dead, and then you lose JoJo because he's going to do the rest of his life in prison. So that's what I understand. I understand that reality. So I understand why Ray Ray is going to kill JoJo, because in our communities, poverty is violence. When you don't have nothing, you can't go nowhere in America where black people are living in above average conditions, who don't need or not living in poverty. You can find any community where black people live and they're not living in poverty and there's no violence. Because there's no need. Only place there's violence or where we killing each other is in marginalized communities where there is poverty. It's not an excuse, but it's the facts. Poverty is violence. That's it. I don't give a fuck where anywhere that you find the conditions of the projects or people in Chicago. I don't give a fuck. You go to third world countries, they killing each other over there. That's living in those conditions. That's just the bottom line. If you look at the conditions that them people in Chicago is living in, it's trauma filled to the point where that is actually facts. It is. You cannot show me anywhere where people are living in poverty, like in Chicago, that violence is not prevalent. Can't do it. You just can't do it. You're not going to find it. So understanding that reality, I understand in order for me to stop the killing and the crime in the communities, we got to change the conditions of the communities first. I don't give a fuck how many times I go to the block and say, yo, y'all should stop shooting each other and all that. But if I don't have a way to feed them, if I can't get them off the corner and they got a war over the block and who's this, if I can't provide anything to replace what it is they believe is their source of income and their source of family, and replace that with something, if I can't do that, because nobody wants to commit crime. When I was in the streets, I didn't want to commit crime. It was out of a sense of desperation. The only way you change is when you change the conditions of the people. And we have to be intentional about changing the conditions of the people. Black people, brown people, no, poor people don't want to commit crime. They just don't want to be poor. So you adapt all of those things. You adapt all of the trauma, the stress, the pain, all the shit that comes with it. You adopt it because you believe it's your only way out of poverty. It's the only thing that you have to connect with inside of poverty. So that's the reality. That's the reality of what we're dealing with. So when you look at this little young girl, yes, the community's supposed to rise up for that. The brothers in Chicago, I can't go to Chicago and say, yo, somebody killed niggas and shoot me down in the middle of the street. The Chicago brothers supposed to go out there and take care of that. They supposed to handle the big homies and all that who knows what's going on. They supposed to make that man turn himself in. He done killed the baby. Ain't no love, ain't no honor in shooting no baby, ain't nothing. There ain't even no reason. It's nothing for you to even organize. I mean, I'd rather be Jesse Jackson than the niggas that's on the internet. You can say what you want about Jesse. Jesse changed the trajectory of the world. Jesse going down as an icon. If you compare me to Jesse Jackson is 90 years old. He lived a full life. He made history. He represented black people. He had some stumbling points like we all do. He done shit that people didn't agree with. But for the most part, Jesse Jackson is a black icon. That's it. I don't give a fuck what you could call him messy. You can say whatever you want. Jesse Jackson did more shit for black people than everybody that's on here combined. That's it. We can say what we want. You can say what you want about him. But Jesse Jackson did more for black people than every one of you niggas that's saying something about him. And he risked his life. He went up against establishments. He went up against a bunch of people saying shit about black people, representing black people. Al Sharpton did too. All of these people you talking about have done more for black people than anybody on here. So we can say what we want. These people are going down in the history books as icons. Al Sharpton got arrested over fucking 60-something times. He spent 90 days in prison for civil rights. You niggas ain't gonna spend one day. Niggas ain't gonna even go outside and throw a rock in a riot. So as much as you mad, you could say they sold out, right? You might feel they sold out. You could say that. But before they sold out, they've had more skin in the game than me and you. Before they did the shit that made you feel like whatever, they did way more than me and you. Right now, to this day, they both doing more than me and you. They just are. You can say what you want. Just look in the history books and look at the shit that Jesse Jackson accomplished. And then look at the history books and look at what you accomplished. That's just a fact. We can say what we want. It's just like niggas saying, yo, LeBron ain't shit. LeBron is a bum. I don't give a fuck. Okay, LeBron got rings. LeBron got championships. In his perspective field, he's done more than anybody that's talking about him. This is just a fact. You can sit there and say Russell Westbrook is trash. I don't like Russell Westbrook. I don't like Carmelo. In his perspective field, he's done more than any of you niggas is doing. So you can say what you want about the people who are actually doing these things, right? Because they might have had a misstep or they might not have lived up to your expectations, but they actually did way more than you. Just like I actually probably do way more than anybody that's on here talking and saying negative shit about me. So that's beyond here. But what I'm trying to say, us as people have to understand, there are two different fights that we have to fight. We got to fight against the wars in our communities, and we got to fight against the wars on our communities, right? And both of them are equal. And no one person has the time to fight all of them. That's why we all need each other. That's why we need you. Like if I miss something, right, and you feel like something need to be going on, go over there and do it. If I can't be in Chicago because I'm in Minnesota right now with George Floyd family waiting for this thing, then go to Chicago, right? Because you feel like it's a need. That's what I did. I didn't wait. I didn't say, yo, you niggas ain't doing nothing. Fuck. No, I went and did it. I didn't talk about what somebody else wasn't doing. I seen that somebody wasn't doing it, and I went and did it. I didn't get on the computer and say, yo, you niggas ain't doing this and typing and calling you names. And no, I said, okay, there's a void that needs to be filled, and I feel like I can fill that. So I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go do that. Jesse Jackson is a black icon. Jesse Jackson is going down in history. If you look at the accomplishments of Jesse Jackson over the shit that you say he sold out, they far surpass where he sold out. That's just a fact. If a nigga have one bad game, y'all say he trash. He might have had a bad game. But if you look at the history of Jesse Jackson, and you look at what he accomplished, the first black man running for president, almost did all type of shit that made he made the path for people like Barack to become president. He created pathways. He did so much shit that nobody pays attention to. He was there with Martin Luther King. He was right there. Like, he molded a lot of these people. A lot of people look. I mean, people got caught selling drugs. I don't know if he got caught selling drugs. I don't know anything about that. But the reality of the situation is that what he did in history, you can't erase. You know? You can't erase that. So the bottom line is, do something. You know, we need people in Chicago. We need more people in Minnesota. We need people in your town. Step up. Be the change that you want to see. You know? And last but not least, man, as we wait for this verdict, you know, and a lot of people are calling for peace and this and that, you know. I'm not advocating for violence, but we're not going to do anything peaceful if there's no justice. Once again, I don't advocate for violence. There won't be no violent march, but it won't be peaceful, because peaceful means that we calm, that we serene, that we happy. It's not going to be no peace if it ain't no justice. So don't call for peace. Don't blame us. Tell the people to give us justice. Tell them to peacefully convict the man that killed the black man in the middle of the street. Tell them to peacefully make sure that those things happen. That's when the peace will happen. Y'all give the olive branch for peace, and then we can have peace. Until that, don't call us about no peace. Don't ask us about peace. Don't tell us about peace. No, we're not advocating for violence, but we damn sure ain't going to be peaceful. It's not going to happen. You having the wrong conversations with the wrong people. We was peaceful. George Floyd begged for his life. He was peacefully begging for his life when that man took it. Man took his life as he peacefully begged for his life. So stop asking us for peace. We've been peaceful. We don't have a history of violence and transgression. We don't have that history. No, we just don't have that history. So you got to talk to the people who have a history of not being peaceful and ask them to be peaceful. We just want justice. Fuck all the peace. Give us justice, and then you can have all the peace you want. But at this point, we're tired of the peace without the justice.